Have you ever really thought about this? You could be buying sushi in Tokyo or oil in Riyadh, and chances are the whole transaction is somehow connected to the US dollar. It's wild, right? Even countries that aren't exactly best friends with the United States, well, they still have to use its money. So, how on earth did we get here? Let's dive in.
And that's the big question we're tackling today. How did a single country's currency become the most powerful economic tool on the entire planet? We're going to break it all down. By the time we're done, you'll get the full story behind the money that, for better or worse, shapes our world.
Okay, so first things first, we need to get our heads around this key concept, the reserve currency. Now, I know it sounds a little bit complicated, maybe a bit dry, but the idea is actually super simple. Just imagine all the world's countries are people in a big room, while the reserve currency is just the one type of money that everyone in that room agrees to trust and accept. It becomes the default. So countries hold huge piles of it in their central banks. They use it for trading with each other, for their national savings, and for those just-in-case emergencies. It's basically the operating system for the entire global economy. But here's the thing you have to know. The dollar wasn't always number one. Nope. For a really long time, another currency was the top dog. And to really understand how the dollar rose, we first have to look at how its predecessor fell. So before the dollar came along, the world literally ran on the British pound. And the reason why? It was pretty straightforward. The British Empire was the dominant global power. It had a massive empire, controlled the seas, the trade routes, everything. So naturally, everyone just used their money. But as we all know, empires don't last forever. And this is where everything changes. The massive back-to-back catastrophes of World War I and then World War II, well, they didn't just change things, they completely rewrote the global map of power. The old European economies, including Britain's, were just shattered. And the contrast was just stark. On one side, you have Europe, with its cities in ruins and its governments totally drowning in debt. And on the other side, the United States. America emerged from the wars stronger than ever before. It had become the world's factory, the world's main lender, and by a long shot, the richest country on Earth. A massive power vacuum had just opened up. So this sets the stage for the pivotal moment in our story. In 1944, while the war was still raging, leaders from 44 countries all got together in a little town called Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Their goal? To design a totally new, stable economic system for the world. They needed a new anchor. And what they came up with was actually brilliantly simple. Here's how it worked. Every other currency in the world would be locked to the US dollar at a fixed rate. Then, the US dollar itself would be locked to a fixed value in gold. And why the dollar? Well, there was one very good reason. At the time, the US held almost all of the world's gold. It was the only country that could actually back up that promise. And just like that, it was official. The dollar wasn't just America's money anymore. It was now the bedrock of the entire global financial system. From that point on, pretty much every international transaction revolved around it. Now, for almost 30 years, this system actually worked pretty well. You know, it gave the world a sense of stability, of predictability. But this is where our story takes a really sharp turn. The very foundation of this entire system was about to get ripped away. Then, in 1971, bam, US President Richard Nixon gets on TV and drops an absolute bombshell. He announced that the United States would no longer exchange its dollars for gold. With that one move, known as the Nixon shock, he basically tore up the entire Bretton Woods rulebook. So, why would he do that? Well, a few things were going on. The US was spending a ton of money, especially on the Vietnam War, and it was printing way more dollars than it actually had gold to back them up. Other countries started to get really nervous, and they began showing up, asking to trade their dollars for gold, which was draining America's reserves fast. So think about it. The connection to gold, the very thing that gave the dollar its special status, was gone. Logically, the dollar should have collapsed. The world should have scrambled to find a new system, right? Well, no. And honestly, this is the most fascinating part of the whole story. The dollar didn't collapse. In fact, it's now backed by nothing but faith. And yet, somehow, its power grew even stronger. So let's dig into the unseen forces that kept it on top. I mean, how is that even possible? The dollar was unchained from gold, and instead of crashing, it soared.
Turns out, the world had just become so deeply dependent on the dollar that it couldn't even imagine a global economy without it. This continued dominance really rests on a few invisible but incredibly powerful pillars. It really boils down to four main things. First, trust. The US economy was still seen as the safest, most stable place to park your money. Second, the petrodollar system. A deal was struck where all major oil producers would only sell their oil in US dollars. So if you needed oil, you needed dollars first. Third, infrastructure. The entire plumbing of global banking, the wires, the accounts, it was all built for dollars. And finally, the big one, the network effect. Since everyone else was using it, it was just too hard and too risky for any one country to switch. And the proof is in the numbers. Even today, the US dollar makes up around 60% of all the foreign currency reserves held by the world's central banks. The next closest competitor isn't even in the same league. That is a staggering, almost unbelievable level of dominance.
But here's the billion-dollar question, or maybe trillion-dollar question. Will this last forever? Probably not. You can start to see some cracks appearing. You got the rise of China's economy, the invention of digital currencies, and some countries actively trying to trade in their own money. It's clear the dollar's dominance is being challenged, but, replacing it is not going to be easy. And that really gets to the heart of it. The dollar's incredible journey shows us that the world's most powerful currency isn't actually backed by a shiny metal. It's backed by something much more powerful, and maybe a little more fragile. A shared global belief in the strength and stability of the country that issues it. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. When you weigh all the new challenges against the massive power of the current system, what do you think? Is the dollar going to stay the undisputed king of currency? It's a question that is absolutely going to help define the future of our global economy.